joined now by Wexford Camogie legend Ursula Jacob. Ursula, how are you?
How are you?
Good. We'll move on to the Camogie in a second, Ursula, but I know I'd say you can't wait for these games on Sunday as well, particularly that Ballygunner-Ballyhale game. It's the cream of the club crop facing off against each other.
And I think it's the fixture we were all waiting for and hoping for as a neutral anyway, because we're so lucky and fortunate to still have such exciting, brilliant games to look forward to, on the 18th of December, a week before Christmas. So look at two of the best teams in the last number of years coming head to head. We all know how last year's final, back in March, how the final finished. And I suppose Ballyhale are going to be still hurting from that. And Ballygunner are going to be looking to drive on and really imprint themselves in history as one of the best teams out there. So it's going to be a really exciting battle. I love watching both teams. They're all out hurling. They really go from it from the start, and they've some of the best players ever. TJ Reid, Desi Hutchison, Owen Cody. Like, we can go through both teams, and they're sprinkled with so much talent. And as a neutral, I just can't wait for the game on Sunday.
Just based on maybe Ballygunner and the Pearshig, and even parts of Ballygunner and Ballya, it does look like the club game has gone to another level. And I think on Sunday potentially we could see a club game reaching another level again, levels of physicality, levels of skill. And it's great to see. And while Ballygunner are marginal favourites, the hurt that Ballyhale bring to the table, they were going for history, something no team had ever done in 3 in a row. There's so many unknowns going into Sunday, isn't there? You just don't know what to expect really exactly.
I've said it before, and I've said it about Kilkenny County team as well. A wounded cat is a dangerous animal, and they'll no doubt be really, really hurting from that final defeat and losing in such heartbreak, and that last-minute goal by Harry Ruddle. But look at Ballygunner as well, are there on merit. They had a fantastic Munster Championship campaign. They really just seem to have strength in depth and bringing new guys in every year. Even Patrick Fitzgerald, in the Munster final, 1-4. So it's not like they're relying on one or two players. They've got it right across the board, and that experience really tells at this stage in the championship. But Ballyhale, they've been there, they've done that. They thrive in Croke Park. Now, look, they'll be very disappointed to have allowed Kilmacud back into that Leinster final. But still, they got through it. They made life difficult for themselves, but I don't think they're going to need any added motivation going into this game on Sunday. And you can already, the pre-match hype into it, Colin Fennelly up against Barry Coughlin, the war of words there. So who's going to come out on top? And there's so many intriguing battles right across the field. It's just going to be a brilliant spectacle. And it's great that it's a double header in Croke Park.
Isn't that great to see, though, as well? Like, not being smart, you've had loads of rivalries in your own camogie career, and it's grand, and we can all be nice to each other. But that little bit of needle, you even saw it in the camogie rivalry with Cork and Kilkenny. Just in the handshakes, and you just know that there's there's spicy things going on behind the scenes, and even it's gonna be tasty on Sunday. And that little bit of needle is there, obviously, from February. And I personally, if I was Colin Fennelly's manager, I'd be half bulling that he said anything, and I'd be waiting until after if they win the game. But it has teed it up brilliantly.
And I suppose he clearly was speaking from the heart, and he genuinely meant it. And maybe sometimes interviews are just very, snowflake-like, and we all just say the cliched thing. But he's clearly still hurting and annoyed from that speech. And he probably completely said exactly what he was thinking. But, that's the way Colin and the likes of these Ballyhale guys are. They're very honest. They're very, competitive. They hate losing. The very same as Ballygunner. So I just think, as you said, it's added that extra bit of spice to the game on Sunday. And I just think both teams are just phenomenal to watch. First and foremost, as I said already, they're brilliant hurling teams. There is that physicality, there is the tactics, there is everything. But at the end of the day, they're two brilliant teams who are just all out hurling, and they'll be going hell for leather at each other on Sunday. And not forgetting St. Thomas's and Dunloy as well. They're there on merit, and they came through. The St. Thomas's 5 in a row, massive achievement. But they're going to have their own hurt from last year's semi-final as well. So, and Dunloy, getting one up eventually on Schlockneil. So I think we're in for two really intriguing, exciting battles on Sunday.
It's gas, as one of our viewers said there. The Dunley and St. Thomas's crowd will be loving the fact that all the expectation and pressure is on the other one. But the prize is the same for the winners of the two games. It's an All-Ireland final place. If I was to put your head on the block, who do you think could be playing in the All-Ireland final? I think it's the second last week in January.
Look, as I said, I think there are going to be two fantastic games on Sunday. Something's kind of edging me towards St. Thomas's in the first game. I just think maybe that little bit of hurt from losing the semi-final last year will drive them on. They seem like a really united bunch, and they've consistently performing at a high level the last number of years. So I'm slightly tipping St. Thomas's in the first game. And then, look, I think it's very hard to call the second game. If you're really pushing me on it, I'm probably slightly edging towards Ballygunner. I just think maybe that they have that added little bit to the team this year. I think they're really going to want to back up last year's win and kind of prove to people that it wasn't just a bit of luck that they won it, that they won because they're an exceptional team. And I think they'll want to do the back-to-back. But look, no greater obstacle than Ballyhale to lie in their way. So it could very well go down to a draw, and it could go to, I don't know if it's extra time or a replay, but I think it's going to be very, very close. But for me, it's St. Thomas's and Ballygunner. It's
funny, there's strong views on one side for Ballygunner and strong views for Ballyhale. And I was just saying to James there, I just have an instinctive thing that I think Ballyhale are going to produce something, but I'm still nearly stumping for Ballygunner. But it's a fascinating game. Another fascinating game with a couple of fascinating ones on Saturday. I think you're on duty with RTE for the All-Ireland Senior Club Camogie final. You're obviously playing in it a couple of years ago. The first thing I'll ask is, how have you adapted to retirement and that? And obviously things have changed a fair bit at home for you in recent times as well.
Yeah, well, I was just actually saying to my mum the other day that this time last year I was preparing for a Club All-Ireland against Sarsfields on the 18th of December. And this year I'm working in Croke Park after getting married and having a baby. So in a year, a lot can happen. And look, I've nothing but brilliant memories looking back on my career and time playing with Oulart. And, those couple of months last year from kind of September to December were probably my favourite time playing camogie, because we just seemed to go from a county final win into Leinster Championship and on to the All-Ireland. And it was a magical time, Christmas, COVID, weddings, everything thrown in between. And then to finish off the year winning that All-Ireland was just brilliant. So, and then obviously we got back into the All-Ireland then in March to play Sarsfields again. So I think more than others, I know Sarsfields like the back of my hand at this stage, and credit to him to come back again now and to be back in another final against first-time finalist Loughgiel, who I've played in the past as well. I played him in 2 All-Ireland semi-finals at club level. And when I think back on those games against Loughgiel, they were probably some of the most physically demanding games, and it's what I expect they're going to bring to the game on Saturday evening. They had 6 years where they got beaten by Schlockneil in the Ulster final, and to come back this year, a seven-time lucky, to get one up on Schlockneil is a credit to them. It's a credit to their club in terms of perseverance, in terms of consistency, in terms of kind of bouncing back from those defeats. And they're here after backing up their Ulster final performance and having a big win over Drummond Inch in the semi-final. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. It's obviously Sarsfield's 6th final in 7 years, and that's incredible too, and they've pretty much the same set of girls playing each of those finals as well. So you can say that Sarsfields are probably going in as overwhelming favourites. They've the huge amount of experience, but I would turn that on the flip side that Loughgiel, they've so many girls representing Antrim at senior level, and they had 14 on the panel with Antrim in the intermediate All-Ireland last year. So they've got the experience of winning Croke Park too. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting battle.
Just before I focus back in on the game, I'd hazard a guess and say that those kind of twilight months of your career, would I be right in saying that they were the best nearly moments of your career, the ones you'll cherish most? Because when you get older and realise the days are numbered, you probably cherish them a bit more.
100%. I was only saying it I was talking to our manager, Colin Sunderland, there actually only earlier today, and I was just reflecting back on last year, and I think it's a couple of reasons why I appreciate that win so much. I think, first of all, we fought so hard for those games to take place. Second of all, as you said, as you're getting closer to the end of your career, I think you had this added appreciation. I knew deep down in my head that at whatever stage we were going to be knocked out of the competition or win the competition, I was going to be finishing up with the club. So I suppose that was in the back of my mind too, and that was maybe added motivation as well, that I really just wanted to give it my all for kind of one last hurrah. And thankfully, everything went our way in the 2020 championship, which finished off last December. And unfortunately, you're looking for that kind of fairy tale ending personally. And as a club, you want to win any All-Ireland you're in. But, you know, I suppose playing Sarsfields maybe only 8 or 9 weeks later, it was very hard to kind of get one up on them again, because they were obviously going to learn from losing that final last December. And they did. And, you know, we probably didn't perform to our capability. And that was frustrating that we didn't perform to where we could have in Croke Park there in March. But you'd have to give credit to Sarsfields, they're a top-class team. You know, Hopper McGrath stuck with him, and, you know, they probably deserved that win in March like we did last December.
I'm glad you mentioned the Hopper. He's obviously, he's manager of the Sarsfields. His daughters, Niamh, Clodagh, Siobhan, Ciara and Orla. I think Orla is injured. They have another sister, Leisha, who's 15, who will be eligible to step up next year, where they probably have 6 McGrath siblings involved. Like, it's a phenomenal family, really, isn't it?
And like Orla, as you mentioned, you know, unfortunately did her cruciate earlier this year, and she's a huge loss. You know, she's a senior intercounty player, an all-star winner, and she's one of the leaders on this team, and she's a huge loss. And you could see in the semi-final against Vincent's how much she was missed, because she is not only capable of scoring, she creates so many of the scores. She's the link player between her sisters Niamh and Claude in midfield, and then she's kind of she's got so much pace and skill and presence around that half forward line that she really is a huge loss. You can't underestimate how much of a loss she is, because, as I said, she's not only one of their top scorers over the last number of years, she just creates so much of the attacking presence as well. And, you know, maybe some of the onus is going on to Siobhan now in the full forward line. And I felt in the semi-final, when she was positioned and moved out to the half forward line, that kind of was the turning point for me, because I felt they weren't maybe getting the ball into her enough. She wasn't in the game as much as Sarsfields wanted in that first half in particular. And when she came out in the half forward line, she created and set up the penalty. She took the penalty, and she got a couple of great points from play as well. So she's vital to this team on Sunday. Niamh midfield kind of orchestrates everything for me. She controls everything midfield. She's the engine on this team. And Clodagh's role is probably goes understated as well, because she very much sits back on the half back line, and that allows Maria Cooney, then centre back, to sit back in front of the full back line. And that's going to be really crucial, because Loughgiel's most dangerous line is that full forward line. You know, you've got Annie Lynn, who got player of the match the last day. She got player of the match in the county final. Roisin McCormick, full forward, who's one of the top class players at club level, but also at intercounty level. And she is just a top class player. And then you've got Katrine Dobbin, who is a real goal poacher. She got 1-1 in the semi-final, but also with Antrim, I've watched her over the last couple of years, and she's a really strong player inside. So Sarsfields are going to have to be wary of that. It's one thing, you know, that they're going to be looking to stop Loughgiel from doing. Loughgiel got 3 goals in that semi-final. If you look at the 2 All-Ireland finals that we played them in March and last year, we got 4 goals in both of those finals. So Sarsfields will be very conscious of that they can't leak as many goals as that, because if not, it'll put them under extreme pressure.
Okay, brilliant. I've actually done the McGraths at this service as well, because their mother Geraldine played hockey for Ireland as well, so they were getting it from both sides. I'm
just wondering how many of them there is more to come into the team, because if not, it'll be just a team of McGraths in the next few years.
That's a fact, yeah. Just a couple of quick ones here. A Sully 180, who's actually the Burr manager, Ursula, who wouldn't be happy with your cohort when they landed down to Burr, or they landed down to play in the Leinster Championship this year. But he just said Sarah Spellman was a big loss in the half-hour line the last day too, and he's just talking about Siobhan McGrath. Siobhan was excellent when she came out to centre forward last week. I think Vincent's beat Yee by a point, I'd be right in saying. Sarsfields beat Vincent's by a point the last day. Are you expecting this to be very tight on Saturday evening?
So, because I think Loughgiel are coming in a really good position. You know, all the talk will be of Sarsfields and their experience, and they've been there and done that. And as I said, this is Loughgiel's first appearance in a senior club All-Ireland. So they're probably coming in a nice position. There's not probably a huge amount of pressure on them because, as I said, all the talk and focus will be, can Sarsfields do the back-to-back? You know, they won the most recent All-Ireland in March. They've probably got the sprinkle of more senior intercounty players and experience. And as Adrian just mentioned there, you know, Sarah Spellman, Maria Cooney, Tara Kenny, you can name so many of these Sarsfields players. But I look at the Loughgiel team as well. And for me, they've got some really top-class leaders on this team who really will put it up to Sarsfields. I think the midfield battle for me is the big one. As I said, Niamh McGrath is the engine of the Sarsfields team. She just orchestrates everything that goes into that forward line for Sarsfields. Clodagh McGrath's role can't be understated. As I said, she kind of sits in front of the half-back line. But they're coming up against Loughgiel's joint captains, Amy Boyle and Lucia McNaughton. And the two of those girls, you know, are senior players for Antrim. They're athletic, they're fast, they're fit, they're well able to hurl, and they're very capable of scoring. And they're able to cover a huge amount of ground. I suppose my one concern and worry is how will Loughgiel adapt to the surroundings of Croke Park? Yes, they've played there before with Antrim, but when you're playing at club level, and I know this myself, Croke Park is different than any other pitch in Ireland for many reasons. And it's just not letting the occasion get to him. It's not letting the whole game get into him. And it's kind of playing without that kind of fear and really embracing the challenge of it as well. And it's getting a good start will be key for Loughgiel because I know from playing Sarsfields, you have to get that quick start on him because if not, like we saw against them in March in the final, they got a lightning quick start. Siobhan McGrath had a goal within 2 minutes and it kind of put us on the back foot straight away. So Loughgiel will be trying to keep it nice and tight at the back and trying to get the quick start that Sarsfields have got in some of the previous games.
Can I just ask you, was Nolan Park perfect for you in a way in comparison to Croke Park, even just with regards to maybe age profile and things like that and a tighter ground and that type of, I'm not ageist in any way.
Yeah. No, I just think as I said, I just think Croke Park is different. I think if we had played Sarsfields in Croke Park last December, I think how we were performing in the weeks leading up to that game and the morale in the group and how we were set up and we got our tactics right, I think we would have come on top. We would have come on top of Sarsfields anywhere, and that's not being cocky. That's not being whatever. I just think we were in the right frame of mind. We tactically had our game plan set up. We had our tactics and everything, you know, perfect for the game. I think, you know, come March when we played them again, as I said, I think the biggest thing was Sarsfields learned so much from that defeat last December. Yes, I think they probably had the greater experience of playing in Croke Park in comparison to some of our younger girls. But, you know, I don't think it was a huge factor. I wouldn't take away from the fact that, you know, we were an older age and team last December, but Croke Park can be different at club level, especially for some of the younger girls who maybe haven't experience playing in that bigger pitch.
Perfect. Just a brief look at the All-Ireland Intermediate final. It's Clonduff against James Stephens, the All-Ireland Club Junior semi-final, I think it is, Adair against Bredini Yoga. Just James Stephens beat, was a Castlegar last weekend. Any opinion on that final, Ursula? That's obviously the appetizer for the main course of Sarsfields and Loughgiel.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be another great game. I think for me, Clonduff probably have the little bit more edge and experience. They've been here before. You know, I still look at Sarah Louise Graffin playing and Fanula Carr. And when you see these girls still playing it at such a high level. I think Fionnuala's playing 20 plus years with her club and she's still performing at a high level. So it's fantastic. It's great that it's a double header. And I'd really encourage people to get in and watch the 2 games and go up and support the girls, because I think the standard of camogie, you just spoke about the standard at club hurling level, the standard at club camogie level, whether it's senior, intermediate, junior, it's gone to the next level. And it's fantastic to see that these games are getting to get to play in a pitch like Croke Park. And just to give a little mention to Delvin, who are in the Junior B All-Ireland, my husband's from there, so I need to give them a shout out that hopefully they'll be victorious on Sunday as well.
A Sully 180 just says he thinks Cueva Costello will light up the junior final. He's also very thankful that you weren't playing that day in St. Brennan's Park. Just a bit of feedback from one of our viewers there. Fla just says, get Ursula more often. She's great